What do Micah Parsons and Baker Mayfield have in common? Well, in my world, a whole lot. Let me explain. What these two have in common for me is guts, resilience, patience, hanging in, hanging tough. And I don't mean Micah or Baker, I mean me. What these two have in common are that with Baker Mayfield, I planted my flag early. I said before his draft, I would take him first overall and that he will live up to that. And then for what seemed like 100 years, it was really 4 long years, all I heard from the outside in was, he's a bust. You got to give it up. You were wrong about Baker Mayfield. No, I said, I will be right about Baker Mayfield if, of course, he gets some opportunity somewhere, which eventually he obviously did in Tampa. I hung in and hung on for Baker Mayfield because I believed in Baker Mayfield. Just to remind you of the hell I went through over Baker Mayfield. I said he should go 1 in the draft over Sam Darnold. Everybody laughed at me. The media loved Sam Darnold. He was a Darnold darling for the media. Loved him at SC. They did. I didn't. I thought he was a mistake maker. I didn't like his poise. I didn't like his command of the hardest position to play in sports. And I watched him closely at USC, University of Southern California, out here in LA from where I speak. I said, no, Baker's got it. Baker's got fire in belly. Baker is spit fire. Baker has Tebow-esque intangibles in that he just wills his team to victory, even though he has a much better and more accurate arm than Tim Tebow had in that 1 year he got to play in Denver. And those years he got to play at Florida. Baker has that intangible will. I'll just make it happen. He made it happen his first year in Cleveland when he joined a team that had the first pick because it had gone 0-16 the year before and 1-15 the year before that. So what's that? 1-31 over the previous 2 years. And here came Baker. Finally got his shot under Hugh Jackson. He won 7 games for a team that had gone 0-16. 7 games his rookie year. And he eventually won Cleveland's first playoff game in what was it, since like 1993, I believe that's the date. It was in forever that Cleveland had won a playoff game, and he had help, but he led them to Pittsburgh against their division arch rival, the Steelers at Steelers, and beat them in a playoff game. That's pretty great. Then he got banged up, had the labrum tear in his left shoulder, still tried to suck it up and play through it because he will play through anything. You want to talk about pain tolerance? See Baker Mayfield. I know they all get hurt. They all get banged up, but he stays banged up because he takes a lot of abuse, because he takes a lot of risks at quarterback. They tried to force feed Odell into the mix, and Odell and Baker had actually gone on a vacation together. They actually liked each other, and they didn't click on the football field. I don't know why. I think Odell Beckham Jr. never wanted to play in Cleveland, Ohio, never got comfortable with having to live, at least briefly, in Cleveland, Ohio. And for whatever reason, on the field, Baker began to force the ball to Odell. I mean, we know why he did that, but Odell was banged up, beat up, had been through a couple surgeries, and just had lost a step. And the more Baker forced it to him, the more covered he got. They're doubling him every time because they know you're going to be Odell-centric. And it was a disaster. Baker's forcing throws he shouldn't force. They're not spreading the ball. They're not playing to Baker's instincts, which are high level, high football IQ to go along with the intangible will and a whip of an arm and sneaky athletic ability. He ran 4.8 in the 40, which is, it's pretty fast for a quarterback. 6'1-ish, maybe not even, 215-ish, 220-ish. A couple of years he got a little heavy. I think he's really found the right nutritionist, the right off-season workout schedule to do the right things to make him look a lot more fit than he did for a while there in Cleveland as he was banged up. And you know what happened. It became a disaster. And Kevin Stefanski, once again, I'm going to get to Stefanski a little later in the show as it applies to Shedeur Sanders. Kevin Stefanski kept messing Baker over, kept dissing him to the media, Stefanski, I don't know, he comes across like a really solid guy. I don't think he's a solid guy. I think he's a blame deflector, finger pointer, kiss ass to the owner, talks a good game, doesn't play a good game, and played dirty with Baker Mayfield. I'd like to talk to Baker off the record, or just be a fly on the wall when Baker was reminiscing about his days with Kevin Stefanski. I think that conversation would get ugly because it got ugly between Stefanski and Baker. Somehow Stefanski won that. They dump him. You know the rest of the story. He goes to Carolina, had a great first game for a bad team, and bad went to worse, and it just got to be a mess, and he gets cut, and he has to fly all the way to L.A. for a Thursday night game. He gets there like 48 hours before, and he lights up the Raiders on Thursday Night Football by throwing a late touchdown pass that wins the game. Interesting. Muddles through the rest of the year. They're banged up, beat up. He learns from Sean the best he can, but he's not in the plans there. And he gets a shot in Tampa preseason. He's got to win the job over Kyle Trask, and he did. And the rest is becoming Tampa Bay history. Baker Mayfield stepped in the winged cleats of Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. in Tampa. And they just keep winning the division. Interesting. And when he re-upped with Tampa, when he could have gone to Atlanta, but he re-upped with Tampa for a reasonable, it's $30-ish million. Bargain by Baker Mayfield standards. Remember what Jason Light, his GM, said at the press conference representing Baker Mayfield to Bucs Nation. At the press conference, he sat elbow to elbow with Baker, and he called Baker to his face and to the world a 10 on the prick scale. And he meant that as the ultimate compliment that no quarterback in the history of quarterbacks has ever been paid. He's a competitor at the highest, most abrasive level. He'll battle, he'll scrap, he'll scratch, he'll claw, he'll fight, he'll trash talk. Did you see him the other night get in the face of C.J. Gardner-Johnson during the game at Houston? Late in that game, got right in his face. God knows what was spat back and forth, not literally, but verbally between those two. That's Baker Mayfield. You hate him if you're on the other team. You love him if he's in your locker room because he's the greatest prick ever. He's just got that something that rubs the other teams the wrong way and rubs your locker room the best way. Players have always loved him. They loved him in Carolina. They loved him in Cleveland. And here he comes again. What are we up to? Year 3 in Tampa. He's still a young man. He's really just entering into his prime. And he opens up at Atlanta, division rival. A lot of people thought Atlanta would win this division, and who knows, maybe they'll make a run. They're a good football team. They're playing at home in the opener. And Baker Mayfield, on the final possession, there was one last one that required a missed kick, obviously, but on the final Tampa possession of the game, it gets to be 3rd and 10 at the 50. Baker Mayfield throws a rocket to Sterling Shepard for 10 yards and a first down. Saved the game. A couple of plays later, he goes bombs away, up top, deep post, back of end zone to the kid Abuka from Ohio State, the rookie. Touchdown, game winner. Did take a late missed kick by Atlanta by Koo. But still, how clutch was that? Because as I've said, going back to before the draft, Baker Mayfield is clutch. Just me. There's nobody I would rather see with the ball in his hands if my ass is on the line late in the game than Baker Mayfield. That's just me. We can fight all day about how clutch Mahomes used to be or how clutch Josh Allen has proven to be here even of late against the Ravens late in that they're down 40-25 opener game. I got you. There's just something about the catalyst that is Baker Mayfield, the team igniter that is Baker Mayfield, the team lifter that is Baker Mayfield. He's just going to make a play, as you saw in the first of the 2 Monday night games this week. They had blunder after special teams blunder. They missed a 38-yard field goal. They got a punt blocked. They had a 53-yard punt returned on them. So special teams have lost the game. Baker's down both of his tackles, left and right tackle. And that rookie receiver from Ohio State is shown on the sideline getting his groin wrapped. And I thought in a previous series, Baker threw him a touchdown pass at the goal line that he just couldn't lunge for. It was just right there for him to sort of leave his feet and catch at the goal line. Couldn't move. So 2 minutes are left and they're down 5. And what does Baker Mayfield do? 3rd and 10. He rolls right, bolts the pocket, being chased. They couldn't block Texans. Texans have a top 5 defense. They're all over Baker all night. And Baker cuts loose a dime, a dot, and hits Abuka right there, just right there. It's a beautiful throw. It's an all-time clutch throw. Dropped. So now it's 4th and 10. And what does Baker do? Sneaky athletic, 4.8 40. Can run a little bit. Can make you miss. He slithers through the rush that is collapsing all around him. He escapes up the middle. He veers left. He catapults, somersaults for a first down. And you could just see the Tampa sideline goes berserk. They have Baker and you don't. That's the attitude of that team now. We have him and you don't have him. You're about to get him right between the eyes. And you know the rest of the story. Bucky Irving gets loose on a swing pass, and it's just one thing after another. It's completion after completion after completion. And all of a sudden, Rachaad White bangs it home from 2 yards out after a completion to Cade Otton. And that's it. Ball game at the buzzer. Tampa wins. So Baker has now gone on the road against 2 pretty good teams, at Atlanta, at Houston, and clutched up late in both games. Didn't look like a bust to me. I don't know about you, but I cannot drive home to you the depth of the crap I took for about 3 long years over Baker Mayfield. Much of it on national TV. Heck, a lot of it just from my friends. I don't know how many times friends of mine said, you got to give it up on Baker Mayfield. Even friends of mine from Oklahoma. Even my man Lil Wayne, who had a couple of player clients in Cleveland that he was close to. And he liked Baker for a while. And then even Lil Wayne texted me one day during a show I was doing on live national TV on Undisputed and said, "You've got to give it up on Baker. He's trash." Or as Wayne said, he trash. And maybe he looked like trash at that moment, but the one thing I have prided myself on, if anything, in my career is persistence, is patience, is resilience, is hanging in to what you believe. You have to have an opinion that you believe in. I'm not a shock jock. So I evaluate carefully, and then I plant my flag just the way Baker planted Oklahoma's flag at midfield on the Ohio State logo at the shoe when they won there on one fateful Saturday night, one of the great OU rooting nights I've had in my time of rooting for my Oklahoma Sooners in Oklahoma City. A lot of people said, well, you just love Baker because he's an Oklahoma quarterback. No, false, wrong. See Jason White. I can go on and on, but Jason White won the Heisman Trophy, and I said on national TV with him on the show, he can't play pro football, and Jason didn't love that. Then what was that Sam guy's name, another Heisman Trophy winner? I said before somebody, I think the then St. Louis Rams gave him, what was it, $50 million guaranteed to be the first overall pick. Sam Bradford, and I just said going in, no, he gets hurt too often. He's a statue in the pocket, scarecrow in the pocket, doesn't stand strong. And I dug in and I was right. So it's not about, it's not just rooting blindly for anybody who played for Oklahoma. I did like Baker, and then I did like Kyler, and I do like Jalen. I'm going a little past tense on Kyler right now because I'm not completely sure. I like him, but I don't love him. I love Jalen, and I quadruple love Baker. I don't think he's better than Jalen, but they're two peas really in the same pod in that a lot of people didn't like them coming out of college. Jalen obviously fell to the second round, probably would have fallen to the fourth round if not for the great Howie Roseman in Philadelphia, the best GM in football. And to some extent me, because I immediately tweeted about Jalen Hurts, he will change life in Philadelphia. Well, I didn't tweet this about Baker because I couldn't have imagined him having to wind up in Tampa to finally plant his flag. But he is changing life in Tampa. He was starting to change life in Cleveland. The only issue I ever had with Baker Mayfield, the only issue was I didn't like the progressive commercials at home with Baker Mayfield. I thought it was a bad idea. I said so. I tweeted so. Bad idea. You're a rookie in the National Football League. You have proven zero, except that you were the first pick in the draft. And just because progressive was based or is based in Cleveland, they were acutely aware of Baker Mayfield's it factor and his presence in Cleveland, Ohio, and so it made him even more desirable as their national pitchman for progressive. And they were great commercials. They were funny commercials. I liked all of them. They were clever. They were creative. They were amazing. And he's really a pretty gifted actor. I thought his wife did a good job. But the target on his back got bigger and bigger and bigger because they bombarded the world with those commercials. They bombarded every player watching every Monday night game or whatever it was with Baker Mayfield commercials. You just can't do it because you're not good enough yet with a good enough team to overcome that. Just that you increase the pressure and expectation that you can't live up to yet because the team was 0-16. But all he did while the commercials are airing is win 7 games for an 0-16 team. And I said, that'll work. I thought he should have been Rookie of the Year. We could go on and on about that. But given the degree of difficulty, given the coaching and the disaster that became that team in other ways, Baker was extraordinary as a rookie, given the degree of difficulty, much of which he heaped on himself with those commercials. So I did criticize that, but then we went into this drought of injuries and being cut and stumbling and fumbling around the league as this sort of journeyman near bust quarterback. And I heard so much, so often from so many people, you've got to give it up, and I wouldn't give it up. Eric Mangini used to say, going back to my First Take days, you love hard. Well, yeah, I do, but I love strong, because if I do love, and I'll tell you, if I completely swung and missed, I'm about to get back into Micah. I swung and missed on Micah, but I could only react to what he showed me as a rookie. And then I said what I saw from that moment on. But with Baker, I'm not going to back off, because I knew in my heart of hearts, my deepest, strongest instinct told me he can play in this league at a high level. I saw it as a rookie. I saw it. But it was a long, hard time. It's like an endless winter of 3 years, like snowbound for 3 years, with people telling me, give it up, give it up, give it up, and I wouldn't give it up on Baker Mayfield. And look at him now. And if I may say so myself, my prediction on the game the other night was low-scoring game. Baker will pull it out 20-17. That was my prediction. And it was 20-19. Close enough. That's my belief in Baker Mayfield to beat C.J. Stroud at C.J. Stroud with a top 5 defense in Houston. Pulled it off. I think they're going to be a factor in the NFC postseason. In the NFC, I know Green Bay has emerged, but I still think it's more open than people give it credit for being. I still love the Eagles. I still really like the Rams. We're going to see Rams at Eagles. We'll see what happens there. I'll get to that in just a moment. But Detroit, are they closer to the team that got annihilated at Green Bay and completely overmatched, or the one that annihilated the Bears? Probably closer to the one at Green Bay. I'm not sure about them with those 3 new offensive linemen across the middle.